Alright, I put this together out of all of my interesting and favorite video clips that repeat and that are hard to deny. Like this one right here, how these clouds are being pulled one direction and then other sections are basically lifting up on their own. One's going up, slowly hitting the density level and kind of just sprawling out. The other one kind of goes over under the sun. It almost forms around something that's cloaked, something that's invisible right there. You can see its outline. See, the other one is slowly reaching for it. Kind of pumps, you know, like a living thing stretching out, reaching. This is another example of these shapes in the clouds, these cloaked things that pass by. When you see these ion, bleed off clouds that are illuminated colors like that, there are usually things inside them. Pretty much always. I mean, you can see the disk perfectly in that one. And then there goes the asteroid group, just slowly moving away. It's bleeding off as it slowly moves out of sight into the shadows. Here's another angle to show it. Now I'm going to show a bunch of these events that basically happened different years, just to show you that these are cyclical. It's not random. This is another one, completely different. Same spot behind my house, but you can see it's like there's something up there that's invisible, and it's just a waterfall of this ion bleed off, just pouring down off of it. You can see the shape of something, some kind of influence is up there, keeping that shape. See it? This is a different one, but same type of thing. Clouds in the bottom, moving off one direction, another section lifts up, goes up, kind of wraps around and kind of sits stationary for almost a good hour as the sun's setting. You can see the dark void above it, the shadow. It's because there's a planet up there. This is actually, there's an asteroid in there, or a bunch of them actually in there. And you got the ion bleed off coming off of them. I love these exploders. That's from a large asteroid basically swooping in, and as it approaches, I mean, you can see it in the center. It's got the bleed off. It's vividly glowing, almost like it's self-illuminating, like it's on fire with water vapor almost. That is the signature telltale sign of these binary objects. I mean, look at how it just spreads out, and you can see all the way up towards the very top, the lip. And just because you can't physically see them doesn't mean they're not there. But now here's 2019, another example. See, the cloud is splitting. One's going one direction, the other side is basically pulled back the other direction. I'll show you that same thing right after this. Yeah, and you see and this is 2020, so a year later. And see, one part goes one way, and the other section is getting tugged backwards, up. And there's always that counter-rotating spiral kind of motion to these clouds when these things are up there, like Berkeley currents, magnetic filaments. But whenever you see that counter-rotation, the vortex like this, that's an electrical connection. It's like something passing by the Earth, plasma ball Earth, and it's one of its plasma tentacles basically reaching down and interacting. Here's another example. You got something pushing through the center, and then you got that it's starting to rotate, and you got the other one that's pushing in the front. It's rotating too, a little vortex, and then those invisible lines just shoot out. I mean, Weather Channel can't explain none of this shit. Remember that shape? Counter-rotating columns basically twisting upwards. It's 2019 again. Right there. This was 2021. Hold on, I'll show you a better one right there. 2021. Same exact thing. So it's almost got like a little sphere in the center of it. Now if that ain't coincidence, it's not normal cloud behavior. I hate to tell all you sky watchers out there that don't believe. Here you go again with another one of these electrical connections. See that dark shadow at the bottom? That's its connection. It's plasma filament, and it's just billowing up, you know, up in that counter-rotating spiral all the way up, and then it hits that cloud bank at top, that cloud wall at top. And it's like pumping into it because that electrical connection goes all the way up and out the atmosphere to whatever's passing. Here's another example. This one's back from 2019. If you look to the bottom left, you're going to see that exact same thing. How it stretches all the way up to the sky. That's how you know it's these binary objects. See right there, taking shape. Counter rotation, billowing up. Very bottom stationary. Electrical connection. And again, different day, 2020. Same type of thing, being illuminated red at sunset. Counter-rotating, billowing up the top of it as it slowly moves along. This is another repeat, a 2019 and a 2020. Same type asteroid pathways going each different way. Just like this, you got that band at the top that's basically stretching out to the right. It's stretching out that way under basically the influence of a planet that's above it, while the asteroid is cutting left, pushing the whole base as it's twisting it, and as the top stretches out under the influence of the planet. You get those vivid light rays like that too around the sun when these objects are there. When they're around the sun, close, they have an electromagnetic effect that causes those light rays to almost seem like they have density in our atmosphere. Asteroid pathway swooping from the left to the right at the bottom, and then right to the left at the top. Pouring down rain. These are definitely some eye candy. And again, that was the same day, but as you can see, you got two lead asteroids cutting in from the right to the left. They're cutting a pathway. Front of them getting illuminated right there. It's almost got to make like a straight line. That particular pair of asteroids is always to the right of the sun, above the horizon. You know, not always, but very frequently, in different forms. It's not always close and illuminated and, you know, structurally built like that, but as you'll see after this is over, they take different shapes depending on how far they are. But I mean, look at that. It's pretty damn obvious. It's one big one in the back and a small one up front. You got other ones swooping above it. You know, from left to the right. You're always going to have them coming in from different directions because they're not just all in the same orbital path. That's the same group right there. You got one in the front, one in the back. Same structure, different place. I mean, you can see it. That back one, there's a little sphere, and then there's a little sphere in the front. There it is again. Different day, different distance, so you only got a small trail, but it's the same group. You'll see them, you know, west in the morning, east in the evening sometimes. Now we got some more of the OCGs doing a close pass. I'm going to show you a lot of close pass events in this video. You got the big one swooping in left to right at the bottom, lead object. You got two little ones above it, those are the lead asteroids. You got a bunch of other ones coming this way and that. But if you watch my videos, you'll notice a pattern. These things are always doing this type stuff under the sun, around the sun, at the same time. You know, they have a very unique look to them. Let's see, it's left to the right, pushing into the bottom as it's sun setting. I'm going to show you an example after this. That's the exact same thing. The opposite side, last year or the year before, same exact thing that you just saw. And there's a bunch of other examples of them cutting in like that, different times of the year, different distances, some at night, some in the morning, some in the evening. I think this is going to be a little individual asteroid, basically just slowly moving by. Now watch the entire sky as it's moving away. Everything is basically being pushed or affected by that little asteroid. It's all kind of caving in towards it or being pushed by it. Which is the whole cloud walls. It's basically moving with that little object right there. Little dark object all by itself, just slowly moving through the atmosphere, affecting the entire sky. Look at the illumination in the center. Everything's kind of centered right around it, holding its shapes, not no random cloud. That is a object just slowly moving by. Yes, they do move by through the atmosphere all the time. People just don't pay attention because their eyes aren't open. Here's again, closer. You can see it's three-dimensional, it's dark. The only reason you can see its dark shape is because it's that low in the atmosphere. The ones higher up are basically invisible. And that's actually sped up too, so it's moving way slower than that. If you look at that, a bunch of group of those objects in that panorama, you'll see the biggest one looks exactly like that object and just moved by. Just like this thing up here at the top, you know, it's got its path going up, its area of influence, it's displacing the clouds kind of under it. Little objects, big area of influence. You can even see little crater type things on that one. See right there, coming in from the top left to the right, it's pushing the clouds almost like a wave, like a wake. I think I'm going to show a bunch of what I call exploders, basically these huge towering ion bleed-offs, where you'll have a group basically cutting across the center of it like that. You can see them. They're pushing. Basically, they come in at like an arc kind of, and you got some at the top, which stretches the top of this big formation up one direction, while another group is swooping in at the bottom in the other direction. You know, just like that one right there at the top, moving across, you know, one direction. You'll have like another group at the base. But that is what forms these things. It's not just a random coincidence in our atmosphere that does something spectacular like this. That is actual objects moving around in those things. I mean, look at that. You can see the dark trail coming off the very center. You know, they'll always illuminate. You know, here's a clear example of an asteroid cluster group moving in. That's actually moving in under Ottu's white moon. I mean, clouds don't do that, just like Sam's crayon drawings. Now, this is actually repeated 3 times already. You see, it just comes in, it starts arcing, and slowly moves away. They do that over and over and over. And this is the same group, different time of the year. Different weather that day. It's overcast, but you can see that same group stacked up, the same, you know, upright, one after the other, just slowly moving by. There's the other examples of the same passing, so 3 different times of the year. Same layout, same direction. And this is one of the good ones. You got one of the lead asteroids right there. You see its kind of trail it's cutting through from right to left. It's actually pushing into the clouds. So it's staying there. You can see the sphere. It's staying there. It's pushing. It's not dissolving or whatever. It's staying there as an actual asteroid object pushing through. And you can see it. I mean, moving the camera around, staying. You can see its little wake in front of it. You know, and this is speed increase too, so it's holding that shape. It's still pushing in. A normal cloud would have changed shape, and you know, this is another time of the year, same type thing. One cutting across, kind of cuts like a tunnel through the cloud at the base. There's another example, the repeat from a year apart, same exact thing. Cutting across the horizon, cutting a path through it. Doesn't get much more obvious than that. But yet I got tons more in this video. It's too bad people's eyes are closed. I mean, you just can't explain that as anything else. I'm sorry. And they do that all the time, or at least where I'm at. There's the other video. See it right there in the center? It's got its little wakes in front of it. As it's got its pathway, it's moving along. You know, they're all moving in their own direction. You know, but they're all still in a group, and then they basically just pass by Earth, you know, closely, but they hold their direction that they're going. So they'll be cutting from left to right or right to left, and basically moving straight, you know, from above you out to a distance, while, you know, leaving the trails like they're cutting just like that. It's kind of hard to explain. You just have to absorb what you're seeing and put 2 and 2 together. I can only do so much. This stuff's really hard to capture and then put into a video in an organized manner. You got coming from left to right, you got the illuminated crescent. Now I'm actually going to show you the video that this came from, so you know that this isn't some bullshit, you know, Photoshop. There it is right there to the bottom left in my 4K video. That's an unedited video that's straight from my Nikon D5300. That's just how dark and vivid the sky was. You can see you got those light rays just like I was talking about before. You know, and the shadows being cast on the sky. You can see that entire upper left is the influence, the atmosphere type, you know, of Atu, basically the planet passing. It's not the actual planet, but it's like its magnetic field basically pushing into ours. You know, they're quite a ways from the surface of their planet, just like ours is. And it's those 2 invisible barriers that basically interact, you know, push into each other. We only see it when basically it gets in close enough to the atmosphere where our atmosphere can create clouds to kind of outline it and highlight it for us. But these time lapses, you know, when you see these, you know, at the base right there, the ion bleed off comes straight up. And you got kind of like a little illuminated spot at the very bottom of it. There's an asteroid back in there, and it is being partially illuminated in the clouds that are in front of it, making it look like that. I mean, that's a asteroid cluster group, and you're going to see those chem planes whenever you see something interesting like this, they're going to shoot by. This was just I thought, a cool video. I threw a lot of just eye candy in here. Some of my favorites. You know, but you see the little clusters, little nodes at the front of those things, and then like the trails just slowly stretching out. It's not a chemtrail. Those are groups of objects that are invisible to us that are just bleeding off. Now if you watch the way the darkness in the back, you know, it almost looks like there's objects that are, or like a one big object that, but they kind of break through the cloud, they hold their shape. You know, it's exactly like this one right here. That is, it's a mind bender for sure. This was back in the very beginning when I started recording, so my cameras weren't that great. But you can see it's starting to just kind of fall down, the ion bleed off falling down, and then you can see like something, it looks like something massive is just kind of barely broken through the cloud barrier. It's poking through. You see the little wake ripples right there from something getting close to the cloud. You know, it's like an alligator back, you know, getting close to the surface of the water. You know, you see that it's like something with structures just moving by, and they're all moving together. And you got the little wakes right there. I mean, the ripple wakes coming off of it, exactly like something moving under the surface of water. It just pokes through. There's its back, you know. See that? I mean, it looks like a freaking crocodile back poking through. The wakes, the ripples, those are always your identifiers. That's the first thing I look for, other than the trails. Yeah, and explain this one away. Oh, what is that? Oh, no, it's just a little sky stinger, huh? Oh, that was the trail coming off of an asteroid that was illuminated passing by. Here's a similar type thing. This is opposite sunset. And you got, what the fuck is that? Just a random dark trail stretching across. You got the huge red ion bleed off. And that's coming from an asteroid. Now here's a section on the sun and objects around the sun. You can see for a brief second I actually caught an object moving in front of the sun. You can see it. You see it, how it almost, the ring of fire around the base of it right there as it's passing by the sun. There's an object right there. You can see the sun basically illuminate from the edges of it. I don't know how I see these things in all my videos. That's how much I watch everything that I record. Because you have to really watch everything at normal speed and not blink if you want to catch something like this. But it happens all the time. It's usually behind the clouds. But it happens all the time. And people just, they don't pay attention. Here's another example. The year before, you'll see a shadow object basically where the sun flares up from behind it. It's a dark sphere. It's like it moves away and like becomes illuminated, or the sun behind it freaking pops out or something. I mean, and this isn't my video, but I think this was like France or something like that over in Europe. It's like a live cam. This is of a sunrise, but you can see a double right there. Two suns, an object being illuminated above the sun, and then a group of asteroids being illuminated under it. That's what I gather from it. Here's a little closer and slower. You'll see now something above it starts to become illuminated, or the second sun, you know, pokes up from behind it. Not exactly sure, but you can pretty much see that there are two objects right there being illuminated. and then they join together at a certain height. They kind of blend together as the sun rises, and you can see objects under it. I mean, I think that was actually just an asteroid or something above it being illuminated, but I could be wrong. This is a professional pilot captured these from altitude. You can actually see there are multiple objects around the sun being illuminated. These are actually my photos right here. As it's setting, it looks very similar. You know, it's almost like the sun splits into two for a second. Another pilot's photo. Object illuminated next to the sun. You see that big illumination above it. You know, there's another one from somebody, I think in like England, showing an object next to the sun being illuminated. It's usually an asteroid or something like that being illuminated, but it could also be our little sun next to the binary. I don't know. There's another two reflections in the water showing you that it's really up there. You got the little one and then the big one. Ours is supposedly the little one. And I never believe the two, you know, these sun photos unless when they're above water, unless you see that reflection in the water on both of them. Just like that. You got the little one. It actually looks like it's kind of above, but you always got the reflection in the water. That's your proof. That's actually an illuminated asteroid with backlit flaring to the left, but it's bright enough to where it's showing up on the water. Here's one of my videos on my crappy 4K camera back when I first started. I was showing a red comet or asteroid. These were taken at night. You can see multiple illuminations as a group of objects were coming in, different colors. I was taken with my Huey, but there it is again. You see it's like a comet or an asteroid with the red trail. That was 2019. That was towards the west, I think, southwest. Something above it glowing. This is somebody sent me this from TikTok. It's pretty crazy because I've seen something like this before. The sun or the moon basically bobbling or wobbling. I've seen it happen at night when I was in the hot tub. Some red object that just kind of slowly starts fading out. I don't remember when this was. It was just a small clipping that I saved a long time ago and found. Just slowly moves away. It's right at the tip of that ion bleed-off trail. There's more of those vivid blue, purple, magenta. I think from Atu at night. That was in Sweden. This has actually been an occurrence all over the world now. I mean, that's pretty vivid. That's one of mine from earlier this year from Athens, Georgia. Got that red. It was in a red illumination after sunset, coming from the opposite, I think coming from the east. Pretty vivid. Definitely something up there in the sky being illuminated. Probably one of those red asteroids coming in. This is a different video. I think this is from South America or something like that. You got that orange illumination. That's going to be like one of the asteroids, like the lead asteroids, usually orange like that. And then you got that vivid purple, just like the magenta planet that they discovered not too long ago. See that orange illumination at the base? That's going to be asteroid groups. This is also when Atu was close. I mean, you can tell you'll get these red rainbows too when it's behind it. See how it's vivid blue behind it right there? Yep, that is auto in the sky. Double illuminations, different day, showing the same thing. That was a 4K video. A lot of times when you see that vivid purple, you'll see a super white, bright illumination also somewhere up there, and that's going to be its white moon. It's almost down under the horizon already, though. This was back in 2019 when we had a supermoon. I was recording it setting, and I noticed basically something behind it as it was setting started to become illuminated, and it started doing something pretty weird in my camera, so I saved it completely unedited. This is just sped up. This is exactly as it recorded. Something behind it as the moon's going down, its illumination is basically starting to radiate. It's pretty conclusive too. Same colors. This is a different one, but the same. Top left is from 2020. It's the same asteroid moving by as the one, all three of them to the right, happened a year later. Same exact pathway, same exact illumination, same exact red ion bleed-off trail. This is another example of a repeat, year apart. You got the lead objects basically stretching out from left to right on one, and then a year later, I actually captured them in the morning. So one was in the evening, one was in the morning, somewhat about a year apart. A repeating cycle. I'm not going to be able to do this for too much longer because I've pretty much fried every single one of my good cameras. There it is right there. I mean, that's a pretty weird cloud formation, wouldn't you say? Stretching out, you know, like it's growing. It's because there are asteroids or objects at the very tip of it moving along their path. Just like that. And that was the other one a year later, moving under the sun, but as the sun was rising. Same group. This one is just a super fast time lapse showing you the directional changes that these things shooting across one way, and then shoot, nope, I'm gonna go this way. And it just shoots across, you know. And then a little bit later, after the rain, oh, it's coming back that way. Only multiple passing objects could change the direction like that. I don't really remember what this is. I think this is just showing some of that ion bleed off. These particular clouds are always full of those little black flying speck things, but you see how it's just basically flowing off of it, you know, like a waterfall. This is a asteroid cluster group moving from left to right, and it's basically cutting through the cloud layer, causing, you know, what you see and the bleed off to fall. But you can see the little sphere at the very nose of it. It'll kind of poke in and fall back into the cloud. Done this one a little faster. You could have seen the bleed off a little bit better. It's actually really hard to capture these things because of the distortion that they throw off, because they all have electromagnetic properties and they cause a lot of distortion. I mean, they will change the entire, you know, the entire way that the sky looks in the camera, depending on what's back there. I mean, sometimes it's so distorted with like an EM distortion that you can barely even see anything. It just looks like an old tube TV with snow. You always got to look for those groups that are cutting in from the left to the right. That was a passing object cluster group. When they pass closely like that, you'll usually see an illumination at the very base like you do there, but then they'll be kind of like, see the darkness of the clouds, they'll almost be like a void. You had the little sphere leading at the front, you got the dark kind of trail directly behind it, and the ion bleed off pouring down above it. The trails, everything goes right to that one point, like it's one object or a group of tightly packed objects moving through, and everything's kind of being dragged behind it. And you see the asteroid group right there coming in from the left to the right, cutting across the sun and leaving the trails. See what I mean? They have their own pathway, and they cut through the clouds, they cut against the wind. But just like that, they leave those little Nike swoop trails, and like that. That's just to show you an example. I think now we are getting to the illuminated object section, where basically it's just really good close passing days where it's very obvious that you can see that things are uniquely passing through and illuminated like that. I mean, you see, if you look and you actually pay attention, when those things push across the sky like that, and you see the bow wakes and everything kind of crunching towards, you'll see these spheres illuminated back behind it. They'll pop in, or they bob almost in and out of that cloud layer. But when you see the wakes coming off behind them and the ripples, that's how you know that they're real objects. And the compressions of the sky, you got the ripple wakes right there. You got the compressions in the sky, the different color illuminations. It's just a very unique sky that normal weather can't explain. There goes one to the left, it's partially illuminated. There's all the wake ripples. But this vivid coloration is something that these objects cause as the sun basically reflects off of them. The ion bleed off the dust particles, yada yada. But the wakes, man, the wakes are your proof. And then those clear objects, that are, you'll see them just for a brief second. The whole darkness and the illuminations move away. And you'll get the Mamatis type ion bleed off that shortly follows them. The atmospheric turbulence, usually that'll stir up some rain for a brief second. It's the same thing over and over. You just got to get past what they've programmed us with. I mean, you can see the objects in there, behind there. And they're so unique. A little bit of music. Enjoy the rest of this. one of my favorite sections. It's a little Texas cube, among other objects, doing a close pass. You got the illuminated cube right there in center, the white little square thing in front of the trail. The lead asteroid trailing behind it. And just soak this one in, man. This one's self-explanatory. Good eye candy. Again, you can clearly see the trails and the wakes and the multicolors, the different illuminations coming from the actual objects in there, slowly pushing through the cloud. I mean, it's about as clear as day. This is what it looks like when the cubes do close passes, and all the OCGs that are close by them. It's just a weird sunset with all sorts of different color illuminations everywhere coming off of the different objects. But I mean, you can see the wakes, the various colors, and at times you can see the objects. another really good example of an illuminated object passing by. Red asteroid, red something. I mean, it's almost like a black void at the base of it. The red illumination up top. Just the particulates surround it. I think that was actually Halloween. A lot of good illuminated passings where I'm at. That you just can't explain it with any other theories other than passing celestial objects.
Thank